Welcome to the Energy Fix podcast. Vicki, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm very excited to be here with you, Tansy. Thank you.
We had such an awesome conversation before we even hit record today. I can only imagine what's going to come out of this conversation and this connection.
Absolutely.
I am really curious because I want the listeners to get to know you and where you're at right now at this phase of your life. What is one word or phrase that you're really embodying, that you're really connecting to right now?
The word is transformation, Tansy. Um, and here I am now at age 80 and a half, uh, and it just feels like just ongoing transformation. It just doesn't want to stop, and I don't want it to stop.
And I will say sometimes I feel that transformation, depending on the kind of transformation, can feel a little scary. It can feel overwhelming at times. There's a lot of emotions that go with it. How are you really connecting and continuing through the transformational process? What are you doing to connect to that deeper?
So, another word that comes to mind is open. Being open um, and experiencing a sense of freedom. And I will say that I think reaching the age of 80 and being in pretty good mental and physical shape, uh, there's a sense of joy and openness and freedom to just see what's possible till the end of my days.
And I have to say, I can't, I mean, I know I learned about you ahead of time. We talked, you just brought it up. I know that you turned 80 last year, 2024. I can't believe you're 80. You look fabulous.
Thank you. Just the right amount of enhancements, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, 80 is not just a milestone, it is really a whole movement. I would love for you to define what aging well really means and how it's changed over the decades, maybe globally, but also for you personally.
I think the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know how possible this is for younger people who are still trying to figure out who they are, what their place is in the world. So I want to recognize that it is a little more challenging. However, I can also say from experience that as we get older, a little more of the uncertainty of who we are, what's expected of us, what we expect of ourselves, a little more of that falls away, almost like the skin of an onion, and you get closer and closer to being comfortable in your own skin, to really owning your values, your personal mission. If you have a mission in life, and if you don't, I strongly suggest you get one. Uh, so I don't know if I think I kind of started trailing off, but does that answer the question?
Oh, it does. It does. It got me thinking. There's this, I remember this was years and years and years ago. I was watching some episodes of Sex and the City, and I remember there was this one part where Sarah Jessica Parker was talking about, she was in her 30s at that point. She was talking about how it was to be in her 30s and, how she never want to be in her 20s, but she's still feeling all this angst. And I remember Samantha, who I think at that time she was in her 40s, if I remember correctly.
I hate to
She,
tell you, I didn't see this. I
oh, oh
never
no,
watched it.
that's okay. That's okay. I'm just throwing out time, like ages here because
Uh-huh.
I remember having this monumental thought. Samantha in there, she essentially said, she's like, oh, honey, wait till you get to your 40s. Oh, she's like, I don't even care anymore. The filter is gone. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking to myself, because I was quite younger at that point when I was watching that, and I remember thinking to myself, I can't even imagine until I've gotten into my 40s, moving towards my high 40s. And I think I now I look at them like, oh, I see what they were saying. I get this now. So what you're saying resonates so much.
Hmm.
It resonates so much. Things just change and you start to shift as a person and how you put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things that you don't know what it's going to be like. I will tell you, I was really excited about turning 80, but it wasn't until my 9/11 birthday that uh, it's like the doors flew open. I was anticipating good things, and all I can say is for people, especially if they're concerned about their age and things like that, just keeping open and trust that if you are staying open, this transformation, this continued growth, this continued freedom will continue to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Vicki, looking back, could you say that there was a limiting belief about aging that you used to hold, and maybe over time you lovingly dismantled that, and it's not really so much of a limiting belief anymore?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially as I finally took on finishing my book. I told my publisher, author friends, Stacey Aronson, if anybody is interested in having their book published, uh, I I told her that Stacey, we've been talking for 10 years, and now with my 80th birthday coming, if not now, then just tell me to stop talking about writing a book. And as exciting as it is to have the book published, I also had to deal with, oh my goodness, I'm not the pretty young chick that I was so many years ago. And here I am wanting to be out in the world and publicizing and doing presentations. And here I am, with some of the changes, the aging changes, the double chin, the wrinkles. And so fortunately, it took a little bit, but fortunately, I've been able to let it go and just let all the wrinkles and chins fly.
Well, in all honesty, though, I mean, you've done quite a job in taking care of yourself. You can see it just visually. But also the work that you do, the work that you've done for your entire career has really helped to assist in that, in all honesty. So let's, though, first start talking about your book. Your book's title is Age Safely, Wisely, and Well. Yes, there it is.
Aging, yes, aging safely, wisely, and well.
Aging, yes, safely, wisely, and well. And it feels like a manifesto, not just a manual. So I would love to know what finally nudged you to say, now is the time to write this. Why right now?
I think first of all, I've been driven from a fairly early age, uh, especially after I became a physical therapist. As soon as that license was achieved, my next goal was to be able to teach. And of course, as I went on in the profession, 50 some odd years worth, and also getting involved with things like yoga, Tai Chi, Alexander, Feldenkrais techniques, there was all this knowledge, mind body knowledge, and the drive to put it out, uh, you know just got stronger. And of course, as I said before, with the 80th birthday coming upon me, it's like, Vicky, if not now, then stop talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. And so you just mentioned too that you have this incredible fusion of the trauma and the yoga and the Tai Chi and the Pilates, the Alexander technique. Um, in your eyes, what does Western medicine and holistic modalities most need to learn from each other in order to blend beautifully and also help the person the best that they can when they want to incorporate both sides of the spectrum?
Tansy, you send me back to I don't remember when I discovered a book called East Meets West by a gentleman named Alan Watts. And the most poignant lesson that I took from that book was the distinction, getting the distinction between Western thought, which is you got to make things happen. So Americans are very focused on doing stuff, doing, I got to do this, I got to make this happen, blah, 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 as opposed to the more Eastern philosophy, which is, shall we say, being more open, letting things happen. And in the book, I think people will get a sense if they read it of how I try to coach them into achieving better postural alignment, breathing, things like that, things that allow them to let go so that their body can function more easily. They can be more relaxed at the same time that they function better mentally and physically.
And so is this your ABC framework that you're speaking of right now?
Funny you should mention that. So, what happened with all this traditional medical training that I had, combined with the more Eastern, if you will, approaches like yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, which isn't necessarily Eastern, because I love to teach, I said, well, I need an ABC system that will make the core principles of effective, safe, effective function, make it more available to the average person. So I said, I need an ABC system. And that became what is now the ABC mind body system. And those ABCs are alignment, breathing, centering, and I encourage people to learn how to integrate those into their everyday activities so that they can function without that pressure of making things happen. They can flow a little bit more easily.
Mm. Now, I'm curious, in your own personal life, you're in your own healing, your own personal work, how has each of the ABC really helped to guide you in your journey that you saw that there was so much wisdom and support there that you wanted to bring it forward?
Oh, this is awesome. Thanks, Tansy. Um, so, first of all, the alignment portion is very much about how we function physically. And in order for me to have done the kind of heavy lifting and physical activity that I did, I needed to know about maintaining good posture, using good body mechanics, uh, and in order to get the best results from patients and myself, needed to learn how to use the importance of good posture, and that became the alignment. And then, of course, breathing came to me through yoga, came to me through people observing my speaking and helping me learn to slow down with my speaking. And I think I'm trailing off with what the how it impacts me. Right. So since since conscious breathing, which is what we talk about in the book, conscious breathing now allows me to use breathing as a tool, recognizing that if I, or let's say you or anybody, is under stress, learning to slow the breathing down, focus more on slow, prolonged exhalations. These are things that help with my good body mechanics get me through the day with less stress, less um, strain on my physical body. And then the centering is just the idea of my mind and body working together. And when we get a chance, I can talk about a strategy that kind of helps with that. But, how many times have people had an accident or an injury because their mind is one place while their body's doing something else? So those ABCs are with me throughout the day.
Mm, I love that. And as you were talking, I just was thinking to myself, I don't think people truly understand how important alignment and body mechanics are, not only to your health, but also to your aging and the process of the aging because of how it influences everything else. It influences your breathing, it influences how you feel centered or grounded, it influences the stress on your body and the inflammation on your body. I mean, I could go on and on and on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Uh, something I guess it'll come back to me. Something just flew in and out of my brain about, we'll keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's important, it'll come back again.
That's right. Not a problem. Not a problem. So, well, let's stay on this. And you had said about a centering practice. So, we talked about the alignment, we talked about the breathing. Let's talk about centering because I don't know, sometimes that may be much harder for people to understand because it feels like we live in a society where we are going all the time. Push, do society, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we center?
So the going along with what you're saying, Tansy, regarding the push, push, and do, a lot of people think they get more done by multitasking, which of course is not a centering activity. Your mind is usually doing a whole bunch of things, and your body is trying to accomplish others. So here's the strategy. Everybody get ready. And I want to also acknowledge an organization called Landmark Worldwide because this is a strategy that I got in one of the many seminars I've taken with them. So the strategy is start, act, stop. And what that means is you take one activity. I don't care if it's as minor as washing a dish in the sink or writing a book. You start an activity, you do the activity, there's your act, and at some point you stop. Now, it could be a natural stop, like putting the dish in the dish drain, or in the case of writing a book, you've gone as far as you can in a chapter, and you stop and you start the next activity. So, you were asking about how these things live in my day. My day is a series of start, act, stop, start, act, stop, start, act, stop. And so I align, breathe, center, start, act, stop, and off I go, and here I am.
Mm, I love that. So it's almost like you're resetting yourself at after everything that you do and just bringing yourself back to a homeostasis.
Oh, that's awesome. I never expressed it that way, but I like that. I may have to adopt it.
Feel free, it's yours.
Okay.
Wow, that's really interesting. Interesting. Okay, so let's then go back to the alignment piece. I would love for you to talk about, I mentioned this a little bit already, but I would love for you to talk about why posture and the stress body are connected, like what that connection is. And if you can unpack what really happens energetically and physically when we forget to lengthen and open our bodies up.
Well, first I'm going to take a deep breath. Um, before I go into the energetics, which I think is more, your area, Tansy, I just want to tell a story about a patient for an example of how important alignment is just to our physical function. And it's a story about a patient who was in a waiting room where I was working. She was early for her appointment. She happened to be slouched in the waiting room chair. And I asked her what your problem is. I was trying to like start planning ahead. And she tried to raise her arm up and she's wincing and she says, I can't raise my arm up. I said, okay. I sat her back in the chair. I put a support behind her back. I got her arms relaxed on the armrest plus a pillow on her lap. And I said, you just sit here, you relax, do some breathing, and I'll come back and get you in about 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, I come back and something made me ask her again, tell me what your problem is. And the next thing I know, the arm goes straight up. I talk about the analogy of a hinge on a door. How often the hinge on a door, if it's not well aligned, doesn't open and close all the way, it creaks, it breaks down. So that's not everybody's shoulder or arm will, have that type of dramatic improvement, but it really brings home the difference good postural alignment can make in your physical function. And then Tansy, why don't you talk about the energy?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so one of the things that I've noticed just to go in conjunction with this is especially when I'm working on clients in any of my energy healing sessions, my sessions are very intuitive. And so many times when I have somebody, my hands are under their head, I may get called to give them a little bit of a cervical traction. And that's just where I very gently pull on the cervical spine, the next part of your spine, and I just lengthen that spine up a little bit. And I'll tell you, Vicki, I can't even count the number of times that this has happened that when I do that, I can literally feel the energy shooting up the spine and
Mhm.
coming out towards me. I can feel that rush because when our posture, when our spine is compressed, when we're slouched, when we're not sitting upright, when we're not opening up,
Mhm.
that spine can't allow the energy to really flow properly. But also, all
Perfect.
of your chakras are compressed. All of those
Yes.
main seven chakras are compressed, so things can't stay open and flow like they're supposed to. That's
Right.
just one
So
example.
yeah, no, it's perfect. And you already mentioned the suggestions that I give when I'm teaching people how to achieve good alignment, because the format that I use in the book, or when I'm doing a presentation for any component of the ABC mind body system, or I have an ABCs of personal growth and transformation, every component is: what is it? Why is it important? How do you achieve it? And for the alignment portion of the ABC system, I have people usually sit back and they, oh no, actually I don't. I usually have them sit on the edge of a chair with feet flat on the floor, maybe close their eyes so they can hear the suggestions. And instead of giving the old command of chin in, chest out, shoulders back, and where you got this really make posture happen in a very rigid way, I will say, I want you to lengthen and let your body respond. Then I say open, which is to encourage people to release tension that usually is happening around the neck and shoulders. A lady that was in one of my presentations said, I also feel like I want to make space in my chest. And there the shoulders drop down even more. And then there is chin or chins, depending on your age. Chins in, the head retracts back on the trunk, and let the crown of the head rise up. And the next thing you know, you've got this nice, light, lengthened, opened posture so your energy can flow.
And I'll tell you, and I'm sure you've seen this over and over, but for the listener, try it. Try what Vicky is saying because I guarantee your mood is going to improve. Your
Mhm.
physical energy is going to improve. You'll probably feel a little bit more awake. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Right. And then, of course, we add the conscious breathing. So you've got
Mhm.
this nice, light, open, lengthened posture. And then you draw your attention down to your breathing. And we talk about breathing through the nose, which is ideal, and focusing on prolonged exhalations, because those are the relaxation phase of breathing. And so this is how we now can use breathing as a form of stress reduction. Who doesn't want that?
Mm. And so I love that you just explained all that the way you did because people always talk about breath work is so stress reducing and what it does, but I don't often hear how it does it. And I really
Mhm.
like how you just explained that because when your alignment is in a better posture, better alignment, and you're feeling more centered, that breath work is just the perfect complement to come in and shift the whole experience.
Right. And Tansy, two things came to mind. I remembered what I forgot before, and that is regarding the benefits of postural alignment as we age. For those of us or those of the listeners who may have osteoporosis, the concern is that without managing postural alignment, we are at risk of getting that hunch in the back because the vertebrae collapse on each other and you get that hunchback. By monitoring your postural alignment and then doing core conditioning for those muscles that support your spine, you can avoid having that. Hopefully, you could avoid having that risk for aging. And the other comment I'd like to make about breathing and the use of the slow, prolonged exhalation, that's particularly relevant for people who may have something like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, because what it does by doing this slow, prolonged exhalation is it gets rid or it helps get rid of a lot of the stale or residual air in the corners of the lungs. And for people who have some kind of compromised lung situation, you want all the lung tissue available that you've got. So you get rid of that stale residual air. And now, when you finally breathe in again, there's more lung tissue to take it in. So it's a benefit not just for stress reduction, but for people who have compromised lung conditions.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's so interesting. Would you say that that then also translates over for any lung issues like allergies or anything of that nature as well?
I think I would not say that for allergies. I couldn't guarantee it because I think those are more an issue of irritation and inflammation. So I mean, could the slow, prolonged exhalation help you to relax? That might be helpful, but I would not say that it would be a treatment
Yeah,
for for allergies. It would make, I think a lot of people would be really happy if taking care of allergies were that easy.
it would be amazing.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, oh, that's so fascinating. So, Vicky, you also have some other parts to the ABCs. Am I correct?
Well, it's a second ABC system because after I had been with what is now the ABC mind body system, I said, well, what would be a good set of ABCs that would focus more on our mental well being? Because we know, you and I, we're very much about being aware of the mind body connection. So I created this other set of ABCs called the uh, ABC System for Personal Growth. Oh my goodness, I don't have it in front of me. ABC System for Personal Growth and Transformation. And what they are, all right, everybody, listen carefully. What they are attitudes. And we talk about what they are, why they're important, and how do you maybe work to achieve attitudes that may be more positive for how you live your life. The B is beliefs. And we talk about beliefs which are a little more challenging to change than attitudes are. And we talk about that. And the last one is commitment. And once you've done this exploration of your attitudes, the ones that are more positive and supportive of your personal growth and development versus those that may hinder what's possible for you. So once you've explored those and once you've explored your beliefs, which ones are very reinforcing, which ones may be limiting what you see possible for yourself. Okay, now what's your commitment? What do you, what, if anything, might you want to change? So those are those ABCs, Tansy.
Oh, so no, that's perfect because that is a huge is a huge obstacle for so many people. I would love for you to tell us maybe for each one of them, attitudes, beliefs, commitments, what you've seen as been some of the most common that come across your way when you're working with your clients. What are some of
Or
the
even
most
in
common,
ourselves.
yeah, or
Even
even on
in,
ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so, I mean, I'm the attitudes usually run along with judgments. I mean, if you're having a bad attitude about someone or something or a circumstance, it's usually because you're having a judgment about that person or circumstance being right or wrong, or good or bad. And taking the time to explore your attitude, especially if it's causing difficulties in relationships you may have in your personal life or at work, uh, attitudes you may have about what you think about yourself. Oh, I'm too old. I'm unattractive. I'm this. I'm that. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, Tansy, but stopping, taking the time to notice gives you the opportunity to choose. And that's what's empowering is recognizing that you have a choice. So if something is happening and if you're having an attitude that is creating stress in you, creating upset in you, stop, take a look at it. What may be the upset or the issue? And is there something you can do about it? So you're actually reminding me that I often recommend people using the serenity prayer when something comes up that may be negative or distressing. Is there something I can do about it? If so, take action. Or is there nothing I can do about it? I don't know if you want to say the serenity prayer at this point. Are
Off the,
you
I
familiar?
don't know. I'm very familiar. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Oh, so here it goes. Whether you believe in God or not, the way it goes is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, if you are having an attitude issue, very often you can turn to this serenity prayer and perhaps transform that negative attitude, that destructive attitude, and transform it to something more positive.
Yeah, and so well then the attitude, if when it's left too long, that can then help to turn into a belief. And then you get stuck with these belief issues that might be holding you back.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess this becomes a very philosophical conversation, but I tend to make the distinction between an attitude and a belief, that an attitude is something that's really ingrained, usually related to the culture or the religion that we're brought up in. So beliefs don't change as easily as an attitude might with a little effort.
What
So
let,
it's a
let
distinction.
Yeah, let's talk about those beliefs then. So if somebody what are some of the most common beliefs patterns that you see become an obstacle, and what do you typically recommend when someone's struggling to shift that belief?
Well, I think there are certain religions across around the world where women are told that they have to stay in a certain place and only play a certain role. If a girl or a woman has been raised with that belief, just like with attitudes, it's going to take time for her, first of all, to recognize that this is a belief that is steering her life, controlling her life. Now, she can choose to stay with that belief. She's comfortable Or she can say, you know what, this is limiting me from being self-realized, being able to pursue the career that I may want, from pursuing the relationship I may want. So it takes a lot more depth and exploration and very often struggle. I mean, attitudes can be, I believe, can be changed a lot more easily. I mean, if I'm feeling grumpy in the morning, having a negative attitude, all I have to do is put on makeup, and very often that becomes an attitude shift right there. Beliefs don't change that easily. I don't know if that distinction is clearer.
Yeah, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. So you have the attitude. You also, so you may have a person come in there, maybe they have an attitude problem that day or maybe that year, right? Then maybe they have a set of beliefs that are under the surface that they either are aware or not aware
Right,
exist. And then
right.
you have the commitment. How do attitudes and beliefs factor in and play on their commitment to make themselves healthier or to do what they need to do to get to their goals?
Well, again, the first thing, and this is true for every part of the book, I actually start the book with the idea of developing, understanding mindfulness and becoming mindful. You know, that's the first step in any transformation of your mind or your body. So once they've taken the step of exploring their particular beliefs or their particular attitudes, once they determine that there's an attitude or a belief that they want to change, or that we want to change in ourselves, now sometimes you can work on it on your own. Certainly write down perhaps what the attitude or belief is that you want to change, and sometimes you may need a little support from uh, someone who knows you, knows your circumstances, to help you make whatever changes you have decided would be beneficial for you. Is that clear?
Yeah, yeah. And so do you find then that that shifts somebody's commitment level so that they stay committed to what they're doing or what they want to do?
I, in both the physical realm and the mental realm, I think the natural tendency is for the body and the mind to want to repeat something that feels beneficial, something that feels freer, something that feels healthier. Uh, the body and the mind say, "Oh, that feels good. Boy, that feels better. Oh, I'm gonna," and 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 you find ways to integrate it into your everyday activities. In fact, one of the points I make in the book is that it's not an exercise book, that the things that are discussed, like your alignment, your breathing, your centering, your attitude, your beliefs, that these are things you just uh, carry with you and you allow them to work in you throughout the day. As a matter of fact, Tansy, the tagline for my company, which is my company is TheraFitness Inc. The tagline is transforming the ways you move through life. And what I intend by that is that mentally and physically you start moving and thinking and behaving differently because you've done this introspection, you've learned these skills.
Mhm. I love that. And so as you were talking, I was just thinking to myself, that is why it is so darn important to have small, quick wins
Mm,
often so that you see the results, you feel the results, you
yes,
see the movement, and it
yes.
inspires you to keep going.
Yes. Hey, your body says, your body and your mind say, I want more. That felt good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I do really love about your book, well, many things, but one thing in particular is that this isn't a book, a fitness book, a health book about aging or just being older. It's really about all age groups. And so I would love for you to maybe give some advice for somebody who's in their 30s or their 40s who are feeling maybe the burnout creeping in or the unhealthy systems taking over, and they think, I'll just deal with this later. I'll deal with it
Right.
later. I don't have time to deal with this. I got to keep going. I got a family to run. I have a job to go to. I got to-dos. What's your advice for those people?
I think as soon as anybody at any age starts becoming aware of this thing called mindfulness, which is simply a developing a consciousness about how you feel physically, how you feel mentally, how you are being in the world. Once you start having this mindfulness, which can be, I'm probably in the 20s. I don't think it would have worked for me as much in my teen years. Although it would have been interesting to see how young people can start absorbing this idea of mindfulness, self-awareness, and recognizing the connection between their mind and body. There are probably ways, even in elementary school, that children could learn. You know how you feel better, or how you may feel hangry. If you're hungry, and how you get irritable, but when you eat something, you're feeling more positive, more energetic. There's the beginning of education about the mind body connection. Talking about physical, how to carry yourself physically, I can see that starting to be a factor. I've seen it be a factor in teenagers where there's insecurity and so the body slouches, and teaching or helping young people, adults of all ages, learn to gain confidence or learn the connection between their posture and their ability to be confident in the world. So it can actually, training can actually start at a very young age for allowing people to maximize and optimize their physical and mental well-being. I, the last thing I should say on this is I say to people, just like you needed to learn your ABCs to read and write, these ABCs, now the two sets of them, will help you function uh, better in the world, help you age well.
And I have to agree with you. I have to share this story. I'm over here laughing because I remember I might have told this story like one time on the podcast at some point. I don't even know. So listeners, if you are hearing this again, I apologize, but it goes so perfectly. I remember when I was in high school, I was sitting on the bus coming home, and we stopped at this one farm to let the kid off. And he got off, he was probably maybe like 16, 17, if I remember correctly. And he got off of the bus, and I saw him stand there. He pulled his shoulders back, he stood really tall, and he started walking down the lane. And I remember sitting there looking at him of how tall and straight he was. And I thought, I want to look that tall and straight because I don't want to be hunched over like my great grandma was. Because she had a lot of osteoporosis stuff, right? And I remember linking that, and I thought I want to be. So, Vicki, what did I do? From that point on, I would
Uh-huh.
stand as tall as I could. I pulled my shoulders back. I lifted my chest, and I would try to just be as lengthened as I can. And I will tell you, even all the way into my 30s and 40s, people have commented to me, you have really good posture. And it's so funny because I think to myself, is that because of all the way back there on that day on the bus when watching that boy get off the bus really helped to shift my perspective of how I was standing or slouching?
That's remarkable. That's really remarkable because so often young girls, prepubescent, they are shy about their developing anatomy, and they tend to be hunched over. So for you to take on a stance of confidence is really remarkable. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. It's so, yeah, so funny. But so, okay, so let's stay on this topic. As your years as being a physical therapist, what was the most common thing that people really overlooked when it came to staying mobile, steady, pain-free as they aged? I know I want to talk a little bit about falling here in a moment,
Mm.
but I'm really curious, what was something that a lot of people overlooked that you as a therapist saw and really felt the need to correct because you knew that it was going to hinder them as they aged?
Isn't that funny? It really comes back. I mean, I didn't have the ABCs, per se, but I think now posture and breathing, because every limb in the body, every move in the body is only at its best, only optimal when the alignment is there. I get very distressed when I go into practitioners' offices and I see people sitting slouched in the waiting room or even on treatment tables, and you ask or you look to see what kind of education they're getting, and they maybe being handed a piece of paper, which is not the same type of training that really can make a difference. They, so I'm not specifically answering your question of what I saw at that time, but I will say that to this day, posture and breathing and good body mechanics are going to make the difference whether you're in rehabilitation or just trying to keep yourself as fit as possible, as functioning as possible.
Well, and especially for the whole concept of falling as we get older. I mean, that fear of falling is so palpable for many, many, many people as they age. But then, even regaining the confidence, maybe after they fall or after they've had an injury, and even if you're not aging, even after just losing a little bit of trust in yourself, regaining that confidence can be challenging. Can you speak a little bit about how to regain that confidence in our bodies
I
after
love it.
this?
I love it, Tansy. So, when obviously I worked with a lot of people who've had a fear of falling for a variety of reasons, and I'm picturing, working with people in the physical therapy gym. And I'm thinking of one gentleman in particular, although, the same procedure went on with other patients afterwards. But this gentleman was afraid to fall, uh, and was kind of hunched over. So I said to him, I want you to say the words. Actually, it was a woman that I did this with. I want you to say the words, I am tall, strong, and confident. Well, I'm not tall. I mean, she was a little lady. I'm not tall and I'm not confident. I said, it doesn't matter what so. I need you to say the words. I am tall, strong, and confident. And finally, you hear this voice saying, I am tall, strong, and confident. It's magical. And any listener can try this. Anytime you're feeling, shall we say, unconfident about something, you make up something that may not be true in your real world, but your body doesn't know the difference, and your body will respond to these suggestions. It's probably similar to what's done in hypnosis, but self-talk. And I talk about it in the book, the idea of empowering yourself by, I am tall, strong, and confident. One of the things that's important for being able to walk with better balance is actually letting your hips be able to sway as you transfer your weight from one leg to the other. So there have been some people where I've said, I want you to say, I am tall, strong, and sexy. And of course, I get all kinds of giggles with that. However, I wind up getting more of the smooth, natural sway of the hips as the person walks. And of course, there are other things that become important for balance. And if you'd like, we can talk about more of those tips and tricks for better balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to talk about that because I always tell people, I work with all different age ranges, and I always tell people your body goes where your nose goes. And so if you are looking down, if you're hunched over, if you are concave in the upper body and your nose is pointing towards the ground, if you trip, that you're going that direction.
It's funny, you say nose and I say head, where the head goes, the body, right. Exactly, exactly. Which is why, we keep coming back to postural alignment. And one of the examples that I use for people is you think of blocks. All right, when blocks are piled one on top of the other, they're not going to tip over. But if you start having blocks out of alignment, the chances of them falling are much greater. And also, people who are misaligned, where the head, you get this forward head position, this rounded spine, the muscles that hold your head on your shoulder are struggling. They're fighting to keep your head up. And that's one of the reasons that one of the most common aches and pains that most of us get is in the neck and shoulders, how tight those muscles get. They're struggling to hold our head on our shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, oh, so you brought up about balance. Let's talk about some other tips. What other things do we need to know about staying upright, balanced with good posture?
Okay, so we've already got the alignment and we're all going to be working on that.
Of course.
Uh, I also spent a lot of time in the book and was blessed to have a podiatrist surgeon contribute regarding the condition of feet. Um, oh my goodness, Dr. Jenkins and my friend Kate Reed, who is passionate about feet and their conditioning for balance. I spend a lot of time encouraging everybody get to know your feet, get to care for them, get to love your feet because your balance starts down at the feet. Now that you've done that, hopefully, a great way to develop balance is to stand in a doorway and possibly in bare feet. All right, unless you've got some kind of neuropathy where you don't have the normal sensation under the feet. So you stand and you get your good alignment and your breathing and your centering, and you slowly, keeping yourself really lengthened, just slowly let your from the hips shift your weight a little bit forward. It's not a big move. And notice how your toes start clenching because they're working to help keep your balance. Go back to your center. Tip from your midsection, tip back a little bit. It won't be a big move. Feel your weight on your heels. All right. If you can, if you want to cheat, look at your feet or just sense them, shift your weight a little bit to the side. Notice how your feet are working and reacting. Spending time, and I'm repeating myself now, spending time knowing, loving, and caring for your feet is one of the first, besides your postural alignment and getting all your medical situations checked out so there are no medical issues. You get them checked out, you start appreciating the role of your feet in balance. And standing in a doorway is a great way to do it because you're able to work on your good postural alignment without leaning forward, holding on to something, which a lot of people do when they're testing their balance. So just practicing being your tallest, your most lengthened, your most open, conscious breathing, and gentle weight shifting. Don't be in a rush to go pick one leg up. That's the other thing people do. It's like, oh, look, I got to pick one leg up. I can stand on one leg. Don't. Take the time to develop your proprioceptive awareness. And proprioception is your body's ability to feel where it is in space. Take the time. So I'm not going to repeat that anymore because I think I've said it. It's in the book.
And two, I mean, I think one of the most common phrases or words that you hear when somebody does age is balance or fear of falling. And so I would say even just simply working on alignment and balance is aging wisely, right?
Yes.
If we're looking at it past the physical side, what would you say aging wisely looks like from a spiritual or an emotional layer on the journey?
Tansy, with your permission, I want to back up just one more thing
Yeah.
about the fear of
Oh,
falling,
yes.
because very often we as therapists, you and I, um, and other people would say to someone who says, I'm afraid to fall, they would say, oh, don't be afraid. My strategy was, you know what? You have a right to be afraid. I mean, after all, your balance is off. You've had this, perhaps you've had surgery. So I'm going to suggest that you say, or that you acknowledge that you have fear, but you tell the fear, you can come for a walk, this walk with me, but I'm in control, not you. Because I think the fear of falling is allowing that fear to take control of the movement. But if
I,
you say, I know you're there, but you're not in control, you can come for this walk, but I'm in control. So
I
it's
love
again this
that.
whole, right? The whole thing. I mean, so much of what we're talking about, Tansy, is mind games. Mind games, because your thoughts, your feelings, they're not necessarily truths. And just as easily as they got in there, you could tell them, you know what? I think I'm going to replace you. I'm going to play a different game up there. So many examples. I've got so many examples of where changing your mind or telling, giving yourself a different suggestion transforms how your body responds.
I love that so much. And you're right. It is mind games. It is mind games. That
Yes.
is so correct. Yeah. Wow. So, just kind of coming back to that last question that I had as we wrap that piece of it up is, you have the physical side of aging. What about the emotional and the spiritual layers? Because I'm sure that that plays a factor as well in the aging process. What is your opinion there? What have you seen?
Well, well, I've seen all kinds of things, but I'm giving thought to my own personal reactions, given that I am now aged. I can't believe it. I mean, because certainly spiritually, I am grateful to be able to say that, young Vicky is alive and well. I mean, I'll play at the drop of a hat. Uh, and so getting to a place of acceptance of the changes, physical changes that are taking place with aging, accepting, being proactive in taking care of whatever issues may come up. Not pretending they're not there, not ignoring, yeah, so not ignoring them, not bemoaning them, but making the changes that are necessary. What's coming to mind right now is when my mother and other patients that I've had have rejected the idea of using assistive devices when their balance was going. And oh, my own grandmother, may she rest in peace, she wouldn't use a cane because it was for old people. She was 90 years old. I mean, uh, so my comment to my mom when she started having concerns or the vanity was taking over, I don't want to have to use a cane. I said, Mom, carry it with panache. So that's right. And so when she used the cane and eventually a walker, I mean, she stood up straight. She had the chest lifted, and it's like everybody would want to use a cane or a walker if they could look as good as she did. So that's part of my strategy, my evolution is I'm going to do everything I have to stay as healthy as I can, to stay as physically fit and and functional as I can, um, and to keep focused on my purpose. And I think purpose that's a big thing. I think for anybody who's having issues with aging, and even younger, young people who aren't really thinking about aging, having a purpose in life will have you completely not think about aging. It'll have you focused on what it is, what your mission may be in life. If it's just having taking care of your grandchildren, fine. If it's writing a book and promoting it, whatever it is, having a purpose is what keeps you young and functional. And I'm really on a roll here.
Mm. I love it. It's very inspiring. I agree with you. Purpose is huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. Uh, there's hmm, oh, so many more stories to tell, but
What would you say to that one person or those many people that are saying, I've already just let myself go too far. I don't know if I can change anything. What is your words of advice for them?
at any age, in any condition, even if it's a matter of becoming aware of, oh, you know what, I can sit up straighter in my chair. I can become conscious of my breathing and take deeper breaths. You're already transforming. Um, in the book, I talk about ways to just start consciousness, mindfulness, consciousness, just being aware. So you don't want to exercise. I understand that. But if you're being conscious as you're raising your arm to reach for something, become aware. And as you're conscious of it, maybe stretch a little further. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
It does.
And yeah, good. Yeah, every little, oh, I'm thinking of my late father-in-law who took the attitude that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So, for any of you who have that attitude, I refer you to a video uh, on YouTube where an old dog is taught new tricks. So that's not a valid excuse. I just, I was not gonna stand for that. Tansy, by the way, are we gonna have time? You're laughing. It's true. It's true. Are we gonna have time to tell people what they can get if they go to my website?
Absolutely. That's where we're going next. I want you to tell everybody about where people can find you, the great offers that you have over at your website, and where we can get our hands on your book.
Well, it just so happens that if people go to my website, which is Thera, as in the word therapy, THERA, and then a dash, don't forget the dash, and the word fitness, so therafitness.com. And there you're going to learn about me. You can also go onto the book page, and on the book page, I do an 8-minute audio intro to the book so you can learn a little more about it and you can actually order from my website. The other thing you can do is you have an option to request a free 9 body tips and tricks for relieving stress, which I think a lot of people will probably be interested in. So that's all they need to do is go to my website and they can access the book and the freebie handout.
Wonderful. And I'll have all those links down in the show notes for easy access so that you can get into Vicky's world easy, effortlessly, and stress-free, of course.
Of course.
Vicky, do you have any last words that you would like to lay on the hearts of the listeners for today?
Oh, just maybe something about cherish your uniqueness. Every one of us has some kind of gift to give the world, even if it's a smile for your neighbor or a family member. Cherish your uniqueness, and do what you can to keep yourself centered, stress free, tap into the love. That's probably going to be one of the most important things for staying healthy, healthy and fulfilled and satisfied in your life. So it's more than one thing, but really cherish who you are, your uniqueness, and that you have something special and unique to offer the world, and just put it out there.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for being here today. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, your passion, your wisdom, your skills. I appreciate you. Thank you.
And it's mutual, Tansy. Thank you for the opportunity.